All right, good morning. We're live. Welcome to Zoom in Between Wall and Main with Seth, David, and friends. Good morning. How is it? We're off to a bit of a slow start this morning. So I'm going to go through the questions that people asked when they registered. Did you guys find that fun, or was it annoying?
I'd actually think.
What? You had to actually think.
Yeah, it's early in the morning.
I like that. So Dennis, we know your question was, what was it? What do we think about the polls? Because now I lost your question.
What did you think of last night's debate?
Right. Yeah, and my answer was I don't.
You don't think.
Try not to.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Let's see if we got some new people to add in. So yeah, I can't. I can't stand any of them. And if like I said earlier before we went live, if I had the choice, if this was one of the choices, I would say both Republican and Democrat, please go back to the drawing board and do better. You can do much better on all accounts. So that's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. And I've, for years now, or I should say for several elections now, felt that there's almost no point in voting in California unless I'm going to vote Democratic, because that's all California ever does is vote Democratic. So Democrats are always going to win in California based on, history.
It's kind of the same with the whole left coast. I mean, Washington's pretty consistent Democrat. I think Oregon probably is too.
Yep. So the question is, if Hillary becomes president, what will she do with an intern?
Yeah.
Tiffany's frozen.
We better not start with the politics. We'll go down that rabbit hole and never get out.
Tiffany's back, but now you're muted again. So
it's going to be a pretty miserable choice one way or the other. Here's all I can say.
There we go. So Tiffany, did you catch my joke?
No, I'm sorry. I had a phone call come in, so I had to mute it.
Gotcha. So I said if Hillary wins, I wonder what she's going to do with her interns.
Oh. Yes.
Yep, I went there, and I'm going to go there a lot.
Oh, my God.
All right, so next question. Mariette, and it's funny, several of the question askers are not even here. And this time, y'all got reminder emails, didn't you, if you registered in advance?
Yes. Yeah, I got an hour.
So what happens if we register, say, like yesterday? Would it just...
I have it set so that if I schedule these well in advance, which now I will because I've already got next week's on the schedule. So right after today's, I'm going to post the link to next week's. I'm also thinking of putting the whole Between Wall and Main, the temporary section, on SethDavid.com because I feel like I'm going to sound like a teenage girl when I say this, but I feel like I'm sort of over the Tumblr site. It's just annoying. It's a pain in the neck to update that one page. You have to go into the back end and drill way down on this long list of options just to select where the pages are. It's pretty brain dead, if you ask me. I'm thinking I'm going to actually, plus it'll give me an excuse to publish a whole bunch of content all at once on SethDavid.com. So I'm going to create a section just for Between Wall and Main. And anyway, so then ongoing, I'll start scheduling them there. So as long as I do it in advance, all that was to answer your question about reminders. I can schedule it so that you get a reminder a week in advance if time allows, and then a day in advance, and then an hour in advance. So, and I like getting those reminders when I'm when I want to be on something like that. So,
Agreed.
So when you get the reminder, you click on that, and then it opens up the Zoom.
I imagine, yeah.
It did. It's exactly what
it did have the link. So as much as an hour before, you could join in. And I have it set. Some people were asking about this in the Facebook group about, using Zoom itself, whether or not people were using the option that allows people to join before the host does. And I choose to allow that. Why not? It's I don't see the harm in doing that. I mean, I suppose, and because I use the webinar feature where there's a whole registration process, it's not like I'm going to get, some creep coming on here and doing something awful. Dennis, the screen's whited out, so it's hard to read. Zoom in with David. Oh, you got, so it's on your calendar even.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get like something like maybe 20 minutes in advance. When you click on it, it'd actually be open, people there.
Yeah, that's the hour one.
So what happens by being on my Google Calendar, it also sends me a reminder 30 minutes before.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I get it
So, yeah, and your Google Calendar, by the way, you can program the default, like whether you get emailed 5 minutes, 15 minutes, you can set exactly how much in advance you get a reminder about an appointment, and then you can decide if it's a pop-up or an email or both. And I just like getting those reminders, although sometimes it gets so annoying because I have mine set by default to remind me 10 minutes before, and I'll often be working on something. I'll be typing something. When that Google Calendar pop-up goes, it locks everything else, especially if you're doing something else Google-wise.
Okay.
And I'll be in the middle of typing something, and all of a sudden, it stops. I can't type anymore, and I'm like, I want to like kill somebody. I have like a whole Clockwork Orange kind of reaction. And only people
Not all over the top.
So, you know what? Those who, for whatever reason, didn't join us, even though they registered, like Martinez, we're going to just answer their questions anyway, without them. So Mariette wants to know, what are top 2 online accounting solutions for freelancer/1099 contractor? So I, of course, do have a few things to say about this. So they sent an email around. I don't know exactly who it was, but it was from Allison Ball, so I have a feeling it's for all the TWN members, the Trainer Writer Network members, asking us who was using the QuickBooks Self-Employed product. And I sort of chuckled when I saw the email, and I actually wrote Allison a reply. Excuse me, and I realized now what it was for, because then Scott Citron posted in Between Wall and Main, I think this morning or last night, that he's looking for people who are using it because he wants to publish an article, obviously, on the Intuit blog.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So my response to Allison was basically a reflection of my thoughts on this, which is that I don't imagine any accountant out there would ever want to use that product. I think it's perfect if you're like an Uber driver or some other gig economist where you have a really simple solopreneurial business model, and all you care about is gathering your income and expenses so you can get a Schedule C done at the end of the year, right? But the fact that, and I would even consider using it for clients that I had that fit that mold if I could include them in my wholesale billing somehow under my QBOA. But what I really don't want to do is have, like I've got this beautiful infrastructure that I've begun to build, adding all my clients in under my QBOA account, and I don't want that disconnect. So I'm a little bit of a diva when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't want to be inconvenienced by having to log out of my QBOA and go log into QuickBooks Self-Employed just to see how badly they're screwing it all up. So, the reality is I would never use it. If anything, if I had somebody like that who wanted me to handle their bookkeeping for them, what I would do is I would push them very strongly to let me put them on my wholesale billing for QuickBooks Pro. And I would just, like I always do, I'd say, look, I'm going to charge you a flat monthly fee for the services, and the QuickBooks Online product is included. So that's my 2 cents. And then Katrina is on the chat saying, I'm with you, Seth. Diva all the way. Use a solid program. So who else? Larry?
Well, I'm just kind of wondering from, like the tax, how, if the things are so screwed up, cleanup work, and, plus you don't have a balance sheet. So it would only be something you can do a Schedule C, and you wouldn't do it for like an S Corp.
Right, yeah, which is my point. It's only good for somebody who really just needs a Schedule C.
Well, I'm just wondering if you're, say, doing the books, I'm just wondering what's the growth potential of that company if they're just doing gig work, and in terms of getting them as a bookkeeping client, if they're trying to save money by just doing it themselves.
Well, no, and I wrote this up on the T-Sheets blog. I wrote an article about the gig economy, and I talked about this in that article. Thank you. I actually interviewed an Uber driver, and I did it. Did you see the video? Originally, they put the video on the bottom, so I'm not sure everybody knew that it was there. I asked them to move it up to the top. So you got to go back and watch the video on that post, because I actually just do a little layout in Excel, because I had this Uber driver track, the time he was spending in the car and all his real mileage, because Uber only reports the mileage that he drives from the time he's picked up the passenger to the time he's dropped them off. So they don't factor in the mileage that he has to drive to pick up the passenger. And oftentimes they have to drive from wherever they've dropped that passenger back to their sort of base location before they can get their next fare. And I even asked him, I said, well, can't you just pick up a fare in your, wherever you took that last ride to? And he says, no, it often doesn't work out that way. He says, and even if it did, then they would be taking him all over, California. So, so anyway, he gathered his statistics for a week, and I laid it out in a spreadsheet and showed you what effectively he was really earning on a per-hour basis. And when you see the numbers, it's scary to think. So, and he did it himself. There's no way he would do it. He had been in it for about 6 months by the time I interviewed him, and he said he's got about another 6 months of it in him before he's done and out. Because he said the only way to make a decent living doing it is to put in 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And he also said that, what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. That's been happening a lot lately. I think I'm
What I wanted to ask you, did you calculate like his car maintenance costs and that type of thing?
I used the government 54 cents per mile rate that they lowered it to this year and multiplied that by the mileage. I laid it all out. So I started off with essentially what he was paid for the week, and looked at how, and he tracked the hours he put in, and then I took the total number of miles, and I took the miles. First I subtotaled it. Here's what he made on the surface, right? Then I said, okay, but now let's look at the wear and tear factor, and let's take the miles he drove times the 54 cents and add that cost in, subtract it from what he made, and let's divide that by the number of hours to see what he really made per hour when you factor that all in. Because the fact is, and to do Uber or Lyft or any of these, you need a fairly new car, which means you likely have a car payment. So the other question I had is, do you even make enough to make that car payment?
Yeah, you got a capital expense there, right?
Yeah, so the reality is, and this is where I lost my train of thought from what he said, you need to really, it's just a supplemental thing. Oh, and then the other thing is then Uber recently dropped the rates, which affects the driver. Uber lowered the rates to become more competitive, which is great for the consumer, terrible for the driver.
Yeah, the costs don't go down.
Uber takes about 20%, and they didn't drop their share. They still, it's percentage-wise, so in a sense they're eating the same prorated amount of the rate, but still it probably hurts the driver, because remember, Uber is aggregating the 20% of all their drivers all over the world, right? Each driver on their own, when you think about it, takes a much bigger hit on something like that than Uber does.
So it almost sounds like a franchise operation.
It works kind of like that, and there's also a big class action lawsuit now, which I personally think is ridiculous, but there's a bunch of drivers who are suing because they want employee benefits from Uber. They want to be treated like employees and not subcontractors, and it's like, come on, you know what you signed up for.
You can get it both ways.
Yeah. So, so QuickBooks so going back to QuickBooks Self-Employed and the self-employment model, I think where there is an opportunity, and this is what I discussed in that article I wrote on the T-Sheets blog, is that you find somebody like an Uber driver who knows better than to just do Uber, and they're using it to supplement. And, Los Angeles, you have the classic example of somebody who's trying to make it in the acting world, right? So they might be supplementing with a job at a restaurant and a job driving Uber and, maybe a couple of other things while you're at it. So, and maybe they're bartending on the weekends, whatever they can do. So at the end of the day, in between all their gigs, and that's why we call it the gig economy, because they make a living with all these different gigs, they might be pulling in enough to support a bookkeeping fee of, let's just call it $200 a month, right? But for $200 a month, all I need to do is have them track whatever I need them to track, their miles, their hours, any of that kind of stuff. But even then, like I said, I'd rather put them on my QuickBooks online account wholesale billing, right? So this way I'm getting charged these days when I put a new client on there, it's like $15 a month, right? So, Yeah, $15 a month is what I've been getting charged, and I believe that gets grandfathered in when you add them on your wholesale billing.
Wow, you guys are getting charged 15?
Lately, when I add them in, that's what it's been. I thought I saw something saying it was going to go back up to normal, but it's been like this promotional monthly price for the longest time now.
That's your 50% off?
Well, yeah, because I think it ends up being really more than 50% off. Let me go into my TBOA.
Is that with payroll?
No, not with payroll. Without payroll.
Oh my God, we get a really good deal then in Canada.
Why? How much do you pay per month?
$9.50 for essentials and
Well, not essentials. This is for plus.
Plus is $14.50.
Right, $15 a month.
Yeah, including payroll.
Oh, including payroll.
Yeah.
No, I think ours is $14.50.
Yeah, but our payroll sucks.
Oh. Well, I don't love the payroll solution that we get with QuickBooks Online either yet. I'd almost rather use an ADP. No, forget I said ADP. Please, we have to edit that out of the video. But Paychecks I actually do like.
Your wage point's getting pretty good too.
Never heard of it.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a Canadian thing.
So if I say add client right now, and I'll just do it as a sample. So first name dummy. Last name David. Dummy David. Actually, it has a nice ring to it. Dummy David Incorporated. All right, so next. So QuickBooks products. If I do plus, I'm going to do plus without payroll, right? Because I think essentials, almost like QuickBooks Self-Employed, I feel like it's a waste of time for me, for my clients. I just don't want to be limited. You know, and because there's things I run into almost immediately that I want that Essentials doesn't offer. So I'm going to say I'm the master admin. So now it's going to be 40% off for the first year, $17.98 per month. Now that's plus without payroll. If I go with payroll, see, there's with payroll and then there's with full service payroll.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have that next level.
You don't have full service. All right, so let's just do with payroll. So with payroll is $34.49 a month. No, but that's my client will pay. So now go back to my firm will pay. So no, $34.49 per month.
Oh.
So yeah, we're paying a lot more. And then
well, as of March 15th, ours is going up to $40 a month.
So that sounds more in line with what we're being charged.
And then we'll get a 50% perpetual discount. So it'll be $20 with payroll.
Right. So if I just do QuickBooks Plus, right, without payroll, and I put it on my wholesale billing, I'm going to get charged $14.99 a month.
Okay.
It's 50% off, but it's for the life of the subscription. So you got to watch that because sometimes it'll just say for the first year, and then it's full price.
Not under wholesale billing, though, is it?
No, I think it's when, and here's where I got snagged recently. I put a client on QuickBooks Online. I was migrating them from QuickBooks Desktop.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I guess there was some promotional pricing going on for, what was the most recent holiday we had? It was like President's Day, right? And so there was some kind of promotional pricing. And I guess on a promotional pricing deal, you can't do it on wholesale billing. And I didn't know. I was just going fast, not paying attention. So I set up what I thought was wholesale billing like I normally do. And a day or two later, I get a forward email from the client that they got saying that their subscription had expired and it needed credit card information. And I was like, oops. And then I had to talk to the client. First of all, I had to go through support to get the QuickBooks account sort of reinstated for another. They gave me like 48 hours. So the client could go in, make me the master admin so I could move them over to
wholesale billing.
So in other words, be really careful when you're going through these prompts because I think if I paid more attention and I put it on my firm will pay, it would have just said, okay, you don't get the promotional pricing then, which I don't care about. I don't need to save. It would have been a savings of $5 a month for 1 year, and then they would have been paying much more. So that doesn't make sense to me.
But I think after that 1 year, you can pull them under your wholesale billing.
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can. But I just don't even want to, frankly, have to deal with that. Again, diva.
No.
I don't want to have to, I could put a reminder in some application in a year from now to remind me to do it. But
a year from now, you're not using that application.
Exactly. You know me too well, Tiffany. So I would much rather take that gig economist, put them on a $200 a month billing plan with me, stick them on QuickBooks Pro, right? What happened? We just lost somebody. We lost Larry. Did he say he was leaving?
No, he's actually just muted.
Oh, he just took off his video. So, yeah, so I'd rather put them on a plan like that. So if I'm starting at $200 a month and I knock off $15 a month, okay, so now I'm making $185 a month. But it takes almost nothing to maintain a client like this, right? It's really just going to be babysitting the bank feeds for them, right? We link it up to their bank accounts, and occasionally you get something you don't know how to code, so you ask them. And usually what I do, this is one of the things I love about QuickBooks Online, and some of this depends on the client, but in many cases, what I'll do is I will, you know how you can automate the reports and then have them emailed out? So I'll have an automated report set up for uncategorized expenses configured for all dates, right?
That's
So
smart.
always show everything in that account, and that's one of the reports that gets emailed to them every single week as a reminder. And then if they still don't follow up and get me the answers, then I
Still in
stick it
there.
in Smartsheet. I export it to Excel, put it in Smartsheet, and then that way Smartsheet, they can go in real time with me without having to email anything and code it themselves. And then in Smartsheet, I can also set up an obnoxious daily reminder if I need to make them click
So
in.
with
And
the Smart Sheet, you can actually like attach an Excel file.
well, you
that they
copy and
can
paste
fill
it in. You copy and paste it in.
Yeah.
And I've been playing around with Zapier.
Yes.
Yeah.
Zapier.
And Zapier has integration with QuickBooks Online and Smartsheet, so
Yeah.
I'm starting to play around with. I have a sheet, for example, that every time I create a new invoice in QuickBooks Online, that invoice gets added to a log in Smartsheet. And every time an invoice gets paid, that payments gets added to that same log. So this way, if an invoice gets overdue, I'm left in Smartsheet with the unpaid invoices, which I believe have the PDF attached to them, so I can actually just program a daily reminder saying, hey, this invoice is past due, please pay me. Hey, this invoice is past due, please pay me, and so on and so forth.
But aren't you paying for every Zap?
I don't know how that works. I think I
Yeah,
paid
pretty
$20 a month. I
Yeah,
thought
but
it was,
I think it's for a certain number of Zaps, isn't it?
I have no idea. Honestly.
I think there's like a free version for a small number, and then I think you can get this sort of,
I
gradual.
signed up for a $20 a month plan. I was under the impression that that was all inclusive.
Unlimited? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I could be wrong. Honestly, now that you mention it, I got to go back and look. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention. But in any case, and aside from that, you could just do it manually, right? So you get the uncategorized, you drop, it's very easy to copy and paste from a spreadsheet into Smartsheet as long as the columns are conforming. And then, of course, and that's what I do a lot, because like, even with the report coming from QBO, that's kind of a nice reminder. But if they're not responding to that,
Well, and they can't respond by putting in anything. I mean, otherwise they're up to, in an email, there's where they're responding, not actually associated with each of the line items that are out, right?
right. And so, yeah, they can respond. Well, what they'll do then is they'll respond to the email and just write up, they'll just write up, oh, this transaction was for that. It's much nicer to have it in context with the line item, which of course is what Smartsheet provides. I'd started doing it with Google Sheets because same idea. You can both be in there at the same time without having to email back and forth.
Right.
But in Smartsheet, I love because, like I said, Smartsheet, you can program the update requests to go out.
I
Like,
need to get into Smartsheet. I haven't done it yet.
go to my website at SethDavid.com and click on the Smartsheet category. I have like 3
It's
videos.
addictive. Have some time available.
I know, Sarah. I know that you're like all over it, and I keep watching your videos and everything that you guys are on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to do this.
You know the CPA firm that I had I used Smartsheets for our big audit, and then I did a demo for one of the partners, and then he called yesterday and he said, okay, we're going to use it for all our audits. How do I make sure you get your little brownie points?
Yep.
Nice.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so Sarah, you know how to get that affiliate link from Smartsheet, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Plus, I think when they
So where do
sign
you guys
up,
have all
doesn't
your
it
affiliate
ask you who recommended it?
yeah, but I wouldn't count on people filling.
No. But I just told him, because he'll get the team plan, so boom.
Did you see where Smartsheet has a training university now, an online training course?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like normally $250. They're offering $99 for a certain time.
That might be. It does so much, and some of it I just bump into, or I'll see
Looks
what
like about-
y'all are doing.
Look like they're about 8 to 10 lessons, and I think you get some sort of certification once you pass it.
They also have webinars, free webinars every single week, I think.
Yeah.
At least it seems like I get emails for that every single week. But my favorite thing to do is just find a use case for it and play with it. In fact, now, one of the things I'm doing with one of my newest clients is I have a sheet in Smartsheet. So this is a client where we put them under the heading of what's called business management, which is a very specific term that's used here a lot in Los Angeles because it's used a lot in the entertainment industry where you're handling the whole range for them. You're actually paying all their bills for them, right?
Right.
So it's not just doing the bookkeeping, it's paying all their bills. And in the bigger picture, you have these large CPA firms, which they call themselves business management firms, where not only do they handle all the accounting and bookkeeping, but then they have, like, if you start at the entry level as an accountant at one of these firms, what your job really is hey, George Clooney needs to get a new fridge for his home. We need you to go price them out.
Gosh.
You know, so if you're the business management firm that handles George Clooney's stuff, there's somebody that actually has that as their job role, and it's part of the accounting function. Is they have to go out and like price out the fridges and then make all the arrangements, make sure it gets delivered at the right time, and sometimes they don't want to be there when the thing is being delivered. So you have to, you know.
I want one of those.
You want one of what? Oh,
I want one of those people's.
Well, then the other thing you get is a PA or a production assistant, and that person works much more closely with the star. And
I'm a star.
Basically, you're just an errand boy. You are a star. So you need, well, it's not going to be a production assistant. It's going to be like an accounting assistant, an AA, right? And then you're going to need AA by the time you're done with
Yeah, I was thinking.
or we call them a gopher. Go for this, go for that. So anyway, so these business management, so anyway, I've got an engagement that's like that. The guy's not in the entertainment industry. He's actually a real estate broker. But he does very well and doesn't want to have to spend time dealing with paying his bills. So I'm doing that.
I want people's for that. I want people's for that.
And well, I got Smartsheet for that. So Smartsheet is my new production assistant because I have a sheet that lists every bill that gets paid every single month. And every time a statement cuts, I have this next statement date configured in there with an alert configured to send me an email letting me know about any statements that are cutting that day. So that's my trigger to go in, download the statement, and make sure it gets entered and paid. Now that's phase one.
Wait a minute, why can't HubDoc do that?
Hold on, you're getting ahead of me.
Okay.
First of all, HubDoc only works with QuickBooks Online. It doesn't work with desktop. So I'm in the process of moving him to QuickBooks Online, at which point I will put him into HubDoc, and then HubDoc, and I'll also put him into Bill.com. And then when I set up each of these, HubDoc will be configured one way or the other, depending on whether it's a bill or an auto pay. So bills will get pushed into Bill.com, auto pays will get pushed directly to QuickBooks Online, and then it's all automated, but still I'm going to keep the Smartsheet tracking just to make sure something doesn't get missed.
It missed.
See, now I still use HubDoc even for my desktop clients because it fetches and it sends me emails alerting me that the bills are due in so many days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to, anyway.
Right. So I created this whole spreadsheet in Smartsheet, but that same spreadsheet also has the login information that I need to access the account. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, well, I haven't really gotten that deep with HubDoc yet.
You don't need it with HubDoc.
I don't, but I'd like to probably have it anyway. But I also archive the PDFs according to my own folder structure. So once I start actually setting them up with HubDoc and seeing how HubDoc organizes it, I'm going to see if whether or not I still need to have is because I have all this stuff in a box.com account. So I'll see. I'm a skeptic. I got to see it to believe it.
You don't need it. It's beautiful. And I love it because when they do like transfers but online, it captures the transfer. If they do PayPal payments, it captures that.
I like
it captures what? It captures what? Transfers.
Like if I've got clients that will do like an email transfer to somebody, so it actually captures that transaction. And I get it in a separate folder within HubDoc.
How does it get that?
How does it?
Yeah, describe that workflow. How does it know that one person emailed the other?
Because it's done through the banking, and in Canada you can e-transfer money.
Oh.
So it's that e-transfer that's originated out of the bank account.
Okay.
That's what
the bank transaction.
Oh, so it's able to pull individual transactions off the bank statement?
No, it depends on what the transaction is. It will pull the microencoded checks in a separate file, and it'll also pull all the bank accounts in a CVS and a PDF format. And it pulls the if there's a transfer between, like say, between two bank accounts, anything that's originated out of the banking industry, it'll capture that as well in a separate folder underneath the bank account.
Oh, so it has a whole nother folder. Yeah, that
they're
won't
all
work in the
separate
U.S.
folders.
probably.
What's that?
That probably wouldn't work with the U.S. because I don't think we have anything like that.
Got it.
See, our banks provide CDS and PDF statements.
Yeah, the banking is like completely different in Canada and Australia. Australia is like a million years ahead of us.
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
folders, I mean, the folder structure makes sense. And what's nice is you can download whole folders and things like that. So I'm not as concerned about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a very
copies
specific
everywhere.
way about how I organize the folders and the file names and such. And I know that you can change HubDoc to configure it any way you want. But I was warned to be careful about that, if you start renaming things, you can sort of break it.
Break it.
I have
Like I have one that has, it's bringing in all the credit card charges, and they have, I think, 9 Bank of America credit cards. But if you don't go onto the bank, if you don't go online and change the nickname before it links, then it comes in with just the number. And I like to see the person's name and the number. So I was trying to rename it yesterday, and it would not stick.
Oh. Send Jamie a message.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, they're quick. Support's
they're very
like
quick.
stellar.
So going back to the original question, what are the top 2 accounting solutions for freelancer 99 contractors?
Oh, okay.
All of this really was to say, no, this is a great conversation, but I want to stay on point here because we've got other questions to answer. So my feeling is I feel like QuickBooks Self-Employed would be great for that one self-employed person to use by themselves where they only care about getting a Schedule C done. By the way, Dennis, there are also cases where an S-Corp really doesn't need to have a balance sheet. Isn't it true that you only need a balance sheet if you have assets in excess of like $250,000 and income more than a certain amount? What are those?
God help us.
Yeah. There's kind of a debate among accountants on that, even though some recommend doing it.
I mean, I agree you should do it anyway, but legally,
Do it anyway.
Yeah,
requirement.
you could actually hide it on the tax return if it's under a certain threshold.
Right. I want to say it was under $250,000 in assets.
That sounds about right. It's both assets and
Right. So in theory, if you were going to be inclined to do the bare minimum, right, with an S-Corp, then you could possibly use QuickBooks Self-Employed for somebody like that. Of course, I'd never recommend it, but in theory, you could.
yeah. I mean, the IRS has a higher level of expectation for business entities, and so it might not go well for you if you ever had the pleasure of being audited.
Right. I mean, it seems dumb not to include the balance sheet, but I did once have a CPA that there was a period where year to year I was trying out different CPAs. I was trying to save money. And I ultimately went back to the CPA that I'm still with now, where it cost me a good chunk, but I have the peace of mind of knowing it's being handled correctly, and that's worth a lot to me. So bottom line, QuickBooks Self-Employed, great if all you're ever going to do is otherwise have a shoebox that you're going to bring in to somebody at the end of the year, and all you care about is getting that Schedule C done. But even as soon as that same person came to me and said, I want you to handle it, then my response to that is going to be, okay, but we're not doing QuickBooks Self-Employed. I'm going to put you into my wholesale billing on QuickBooks Pro, right? And again, here's the business model. So $200 a month for QuickBooks Online. No, $200 a month for my services, $15 a month wholesale billing for QuickBooks Online Pro. We're not going to pay these guys payroll, right? Because they're not S-Corps or anything where payroll is required or even a good idea. It's a sole proprietor. So $15 a month gets my profit down to $185. Then I'm going to throw in Bill.com and HubDoc. HubDoc is $20 a month. Somebody asked if there's a discount on HubDoc for accountants. It does
a little bit.
As you add more clients,
Right.
they'll scale down the monthly price. And then if you're theoretically billing that back, so you become more profitable that way. At $20 a month, I don't even care, right?
No.
So I'm down to $165 a month profit with HubDoc. And then Bill.com, let's just say it's going to be $50 a month. You put them on your accountant's console, it's $30 a month plus $1 per transaction. And that's assuming you don't put everyone on ePay. If you get everyone on ePay, then it's like 50 cents a transaction. So that should be the goal is to get everyone on ePay with Bill.com. And most major vendors, major credit cards, they're all already in the Bill.com system. So all you have to do is click Set Up ePay, and it'll give you a list of potential recognized payees. You choose one, and you're on ePay instantly.
I wish they had Bill.com in Canada.
They don't?
They don't.
Oh, I have to go yell at Renee Lisser.
It's not available yet.
We need to get on Renee Lissert's case and tell him he needs to do right by Canada. He needs to do right by Canada.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Seth.
Terrence and Philip will be very upset. So, all right, so let's just say we have the $50 a month. Let's just to be conservative and say Bill.com is going to. So $135 a month is really what we're boiling it down to, right? $115 a month is like the profit, theoretically, conservatively, with that model. But it's going to take me less than an hour a month to maintain that, right? So is everybody okay with $115 an hour for a simple bookkeeping engagement?
Yeah.
Right?
And
now,
you're gonna verify the receipts with the payments or anything, or you just trust in the client that they're business receipts?
what are you talking
I'm just thinking of things that take time.
No, because again, I'll put them on Expensify for the receipts first of all.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm going to go by is what actually clears the bank. The only receipts I ever have to verify are the ones where they say they paid cash. Right? Because if they paid for it any other way, it's going to come through in the bank fee.
But, okay, so you're just talking about data entry and posting the books. Strictly making sure everything's posted and caught
What else
up.
would I be talking about?
That's bookkeeping.
Verification.
Book verification.
No, I'll go through the P&L and balance sheet and make sure everything's coded right and make sure that we have good presentable financial statements. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. See, part of the I guess I'm a different model.
Well,
I want to make sure that the receipts are up and up, or the receipts are proper.
Yeah.
But
compliant.
first of all, we're not talking about a complicated nonprofit here, Sarah. We're talking about a
No. Any business has a responsibility to make sure that it is a true business expense.
Right. So again, bank fees are going to cover most of that. I'm going to see when I'm matching in the bank fees where the money was spent. If he says that he spent money at Ralph's, right, which is a supermarket chain here,
Yeah.
then I'm going to disallow that essentially by calling it a distribution. Right? Of course it's verification. I'm going to go initially by the payee. If I don't know what the purpose is based on who the payee is, then I'll go back and ask them. But still, that's not going to take more than an hour a month. That's what I mean. You do the bank fees. As you're doing the bank fees, if you're not sure about something based on how to code it, because you're not sure based on the payee what the nature of the expense is, then you drop it into uncategorized, and QBO automatically sends that uncategorized report out that we'll set up. And then and if need be, you drop it into Smartsheet and follow up with them that way to get their answers as to how it's coded. So, of course, there's verification. It's inherent in the process. But
with running expenses, a good chunk of the time, the payee will give you the clue as to whether it's a business expense and where to post it. Not necessarily.
Right, and in the case of
you're
the ones
saying
that
anything that's questionable, just put it to
uncategorized, and you question them on it.
Right.
But that doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take it takes hardly any time in my experience.
It depends. Yeah, it depends on how you're expensing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How simple your chart is. Yeah.
And you're running this on QBO Plus, right?
Yeah. That was your pricing model that you used.
I don't understand why the chart of accounts matters. If I see an unrecognized payee, I ask them what it is. And once they tell me what it is, I put it to the appropriate account. It's very simple to me. Why is it more complicated than that?
Because sometimes, at least for management purposes, there may be two choices.
Right, so you get a very specific answer as to what is it. So they spent money at something called XYZ PDQ, and it seems like it's a retail store somewhere in their city. Great, What did you buy there? You look at the receipt, what did you buy there? And they come back and they say, they have office supplies there. I bought a stack of index cards for the office. Okay,
Right.
great.
It could be office supplies, it could be equipment, it could be a maintenance thing, it could be a fixed asset, it could be...
But again, that ambiguity isn't there when they've answered your question specifically. And if their answer is too vague, then you press them for a more specific answer.
Right, and that was the point I was making, was depending on the client and how hard it is to get them to answer questions, that's what eats up our time. But if you look at just the flow, that model works as long as you can factor in, that extra.
But it doesn't eat up any of my time, because what I do is, worst case scenario, I drop it into Smartsheet, I send them a request, and I say, fill this.
Forget about it.
And I forget about it. I move on. And if I check back a month later and they haven't answered it, then I just send them another reminder. And at a certain point, they're going to want to see reports, or they're going to want to know something, or they're getting the automatic reports sent out and they're going to have a question about it. Bottom line, at some point or another, when they come back to compel me to show them something, I'm going to compel them to give me the answers I need before I can. So ultimately, it gets thrown back onto them. If they're not going to cooperate, I'm not going to waste my time chasing them. Let it sit. I don't care. It can be in uncategorized expenses for the rest of my life, for all I care. At the end of the day, it's going to be deducted as an expense, or I'll just kick it out if I don't know what it is, and I'll treat it as a distribution.
So you're talking mainly cash basis, no payroll, simple Schedule C type clients. This model is perfect for this.
We're talking about the Uber or gig economists, the solopreneurs, the simple, the simple business.
Somebody that doesn't have all this credit card debt or
they can have credit. They can have $1 million in credit card debt.
Or notes, car payments, things like that.
No, they can have all that. They can have all of that. I don't care, because again, when I see that they're making a car payment, I'm going to say, is this a lease or is it financed? And if it's a lease, perfect. Then I just deduct the lease expense every month, and I check to see it leased in the name of the business.
Right.
And if it's financed, then I say, great, get me the statements. I want the bill of sale so I can record the asset and book all the depreciation. Again, there's a very simple formula to follow. You question something, and then their answer drives what the next step is.
Right, and then you might have to look up an amortization schedule, or
I leave that for the CPA who's doing the taxes to do that, because I want that done on a tax basis anyway. I don't care about using any other basis, right? For depreciation purposes, all I care about is tax basis. So let the tax preparer who's using their tax software come back to me with the right depreciation amount.
Oh, depreciation. No, I was talking about loan, principal versus interest on a
the
payment.
Principal versus interest is going to be based on whatever the bank charges. So the bank's going to charge interest. The difference comes out of principal. So
right, that's what I'm saying, but sometimes I have amortization schedules, and sometimes that comes on their statement. Sometimes they'll screw it up, make minimum payments on their, So I mean,
a statement from the bank that's going to say, here's your payment, here's the principal portion, here's the interest portion for each month.
I don't do that.
I do.
I
How do you break out interest and principal then?
Yeah, how do you break it out?
At the end of the year.
Oh, so you just do it in a lump sum at the end of the year based on what the balance is, and you reclass the difference.
As a CPA, that's exactly what I do.
Yep. See, the only reason I like to do it monthly is to normalize the expense and for proper matching. I want to see.
I mean, if it's significant,
Yeah, some clients it's just easier just to put it to the note, forget about it, and once a year adjust it. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, going back to the issue at hand, to me, it doesn't need to take any time at all. If I don't know what it's going to for sure, if I can't verify it, it goes to uncategorized until the client can sort of prove otherwise. And if at the end of the year they haven't gotten that to me, anything they haven't proved to me just goes out as a distribution. You don't get to deduct it until you prove to me that it's, like I love the clients that say, oh, I took a $400 cash withdrawal and it was all for transportation for cabs. And I'm like, okay, so here's how this works. The ATM withdrawal is a distribution, and when you get me the receipts for the cabs, we'll book a contribution back into the business with the appropriate offset to the transportation expense.
It's the only way you can do it.
Yep. But a lot of clients they get like put off by that. They're like, oh, what do you mean? But I'm telling you. And I'm like, that's great. I don't care what you tell me. It's what I can prove if anybody questions the numbers.
Well, you'll be audit proof at that point, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you charge a setup fee for this whole thing? Like 1 month and 1 extra month or something?
I just come up with a flat rate and that covers it. So, again,
Your flat monthly rate includes your setup?
Well, the flat monthly rate is, let's put it this way. I charge enough of a flat monthly rate that I'm okay with it, including the setup.
$200?
No, on a client like that, there's probably almost no setup. I mean, you're probably dealing with somebody who's got one bank account, maybe one credit card. But I'll see. If I feel there's a need, then I'll charge a $500 setup fee for something like that.
Yeah.
But again, based on the nature of the client we're talking about here, I don't imagine there's that much involved in setup. Even if assuming they have no books at all when we start with them, and that's what's better, right? Then I just say, all right, let's give me your bank accounts, credit card accounts, and I always start there with the banking side.
How come I never luck out and get clients like that?
I don't know what it is, but and I hear people complain a lot about how difficult it is to get information from clients. I don't have that problem. And maybe it's because for some reason the clients I'm working with are coming to me when they're at a place where they really have a vested interest in getting things done. I mean, because I'm not the cheap solution. So maybe it's because when people are spending the kind of money they spend with me, they care. That's the only logical answer I can think of.
True.
All right, we ready for the next question?
Let's do a little recap on what the costs were again. Just go through it again quick.
Yeah, I got to write this
So let
down.
me put it up on a spreadsheet. So we're talking $200 a month in monthly fees that we're charging the solopreneur, right?
Okay.
So gross revenue is $200. Should I share my screen and do this on Excel?
Oh,
Sure.
please do. That'd be lovely.
Okay. Okay, you can all see it?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let me minimize the
I like
cameras.
the toolbar on the left.
I love it that way. I hate it on the bottom.
I have it on my laptop that way, but not on my big system.
All right, so we have the gross of $200 per month. And so then we have, let's just say, let's put QBO first. So that's going to be $15 a month for QuickBooks Online Pro without payroll.
And that's your wholesale. That's wholesale.
Yeah, that's my wholesale pricing.
Okay.
HubDoc is $20 a month. And then Billcom, we'll just say, is $50 a month. It's probably going to be less, but just to be conservative.
Yeah, mine's all over the place. I've had a hard time.
So 115. But there's a way to model the Bill.com piece so you can adjust the gross accordingly if you think they're going to have a lot of transactions. But again, keep in mind, we're dealing with a very, very small kind of business model, right?
Mhm.
And I'll show you something else since we're talking about it. Let me bring up the one that I use in Google Sheets actually, and this is actually what I use when I do my when I come up with my pricing estimate for my flat monthly fee for bookkeeping clients. So give me a minute here. I'm just going to pull this up.
Oh, David, Seth, somebody mentioned what about the Expensify cost?
Yeah.
So Expensify actually has a free version for these guys.
Oh,
So we'll put them in there as 0, and so does T-Sheets. T-Sheets has a freelancer version that's free in case they need to track time.
So if it's just one user, they don't report or approve or anything, just one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's all they need. So they have a free version for, in fact, a lot of Uber drivers use the free Expensify version. All right, so I'm almost there. Bookkeeping. Pricing estimate. Hang on, it's just loading here, and I want to make sure we've got this right. Okay, so let me bring this up. So, and this is, by the way, you're getting something very valuable here because this is what I charge money for people who take my power pricing course at SethDavid.com. So basically, I've got the explanation here for how Bill.com gets priced. It includes 100 transactions at $1.50 plus $30 a month rounded up. That's how I estimate Bill.com. And then the goal is to make as many vendors as possible e-pay, and that way your per transaction rate drops to 49 cents each. So what you do is, from $1.50. So you start out by billing them, assuming everything's going to be a check and cost you the most it can cost. And then as you start converting more and more vendors over to e-pay and you work aggressively to do that, you become that much more profitable. And that leaves you plenty of room in there. Then over 100, up to 200 transactions per month, you just increase the amount that you're charging them in the monthly to cover the additional in Bill.com. If you find a solopreneur who's doing more than 200 transactions per month, well, they better not
be a solopreneur.
Yeah, they're probably not a solopreneur. So that's kind of the logic there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at $115 a month that, in my opinion, you won't need. Maybe you'll spend more time up front in the beginning when you're setting things up.
The training.
Yeah, training, setup, making sure that they understand what they need to do to get you what you need to do what you need, right? Getting you the information to set up HubDoc, which means you'll need all the logins for all the bills that they pay. But then if I can get even 20 clients like this, right?
Make the client set up HubDoc.
Yeah.
I don't trust them to.
Really? I did it last night with a client. I had her on a Zoom, or I had her on the phone actually, because once she did one, then she whipped through and did all the rest of them.
Yeah, I don't trust them to do that because here's what happens. Let's say they're great and they do them all and they get them done, but then they miss one. Guess whose fault that's going to be and who they're going to want to eat the late fees when something doesn't get paid because they didn't set it up.
So you're talking about setting it up for as many vendors that you can find that have logins.
I want every bill that gets paid. I want the logins for it. And you can almost always get a login for it. It's very rare, other than when they swipe their debit card at 7-Eleven to grab lunch, you should be able to find a login to go in and get their monthly bill.
Now, do you guys have anything like e-post?
What's that?
Well, in Canada, you can actually set up with all your vendors to have your things sent to Canada Post by e-post, and then HubDoc can grab anything that's in there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
It is very cool.
See, I'm telling you, Canada and Australia, they're kicking this banking stuff.
That's for anything. That's like your utilities, your phone bills, anything like that.
The answer is no.
But Trump's going to bring it all, right?
Yeah, Trump's going to bring it all in. He's going to automate everything.
But yeah, so you can, in theory, if you can build that business model and bring in even 20 clients under that model, that's $2,300 a month you'll earn to do very little. You'll have to do very little maintenance on. See, that's what I'm going for. I used to be of the opposite mindset where I wanted the big clients that were doing $5 million a year in revenues because they had a big budget and they could afford to pay.
That's my model.
CFO level stuff. And that's what I used to go for. And what I found is that it eats up all of my resources and burns me out. I'd much rather have, so now let's take this up a notch, right? So let's take this model into what I'm now doing for my business management clients, right? So those clients are going to pay me more like $1,500 a month for the identical setup, okay? And so for the identical setup, same app, same ecosystem, same automation, and now I'm making that much more money, so I just babysit the bank feeds, and eventually I'm just going to pay somebody to do that. I'm not going to.
That's what I was about to say. Clients like this drive me crazy, so I would insert.
But
a $20 an hour, somebody other than me to babysit it, and I'll review it quarterly or annually.
Right. But I'd rather drop all those big clients where, as it stands now, if I have them and I lose one, it makes a big dent. But if I have 100 clients in who are paying me $1,500 a month for my services, well, that's $150,000 a month. First of all, that's a healthy revenue base. And if I lose one, it doesn't make a dent. And it takes almost nothing to maintain it. So I pay the $20 an hour bookkeeper to babysit the bank feeds once a week or whatever it takes so that we make sure that accounts don't get overdrawn. And then I set up the automated reports that go out to everyone, including me. And then I might even pull in something like a QVinci where I can set up alerts to let me know if bank balances reach, go, let's say, below a certain level. I love QVinci for that.
Our banks do that on their own.
Some banks will do it on your own. But yeah, so
I get it by text.
I still love QVinci because it consolidates everything. I can get one consolidated report for all of my clients.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Do you teach the client to take care of themselves? Like, I'm just thinking of phone calls that I get, like, so-and-so says they never got their check. Can you void it and reissue a check? That kind of stuff.
So I can set up a ticketing system in Smartsheet where those kinds of requests can be added in that way. And let them post up that request in Smartsheet. I get an email notification, and either I can take care of it myself or respond and tell them what they need to do.
So these clients really aren't writing many checks. It's probably more.
Oh no, when we go into the next level, like I just described, the $1,500 a month client, they're writing a ton of checks. So
no, I'm fine with that level, but I'm talking about this. I'm looking at this $200 type client. It's more of a tax engagement to me. It's more of a, management reports are as good as we can get them. And it's mainly get it right before 12/31.
Right. Remember, we're not dealing even with a balance sheet on these clients. We're just dealing with the income and expenses. And for that, the payments that they make to pay off a credit card balance are just going to go to you're going to treat it like some other expense so that you can carve it away for Schedule C purpose, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So again, you're assuming no balance sheet. Now, of course, what I would do is I would plan on actually building the balance sheet for them anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're going to get the feeds all set up. So you're going to have the credit cards in there. But again, even if they're right, first of all, I'm going to train them to get away from writing checks because we're going to have bill.com for that.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, you put it, you're substantially automating the whole process for them so that all they have to do, the one thing I'll have to train them to do is go into bill.com and check off the things that are approved to pay.
Right. Okay, I'm just zoning in on, I got $100 in profit, and I'm just trying to think of every, type of thing that would eat up my time and eat up my little $100. And if I had to deal with, 50 of these clients.
Right, but the idea is
You're right. It has
even
to be
if one
set
of
up.
them puts you over on the $100 a month because they eat up a lot of time, that's going to be so much more than made up for by the other 99 who don't take up any of your time.
Right.
And there
Right.
could be other
Do you
buttons
build in a model, or build in like an out of scope type thing?
Not necessarily, because again, I'm playing the law of averages here. And if I find that it's eating up too much of my time, then I'll adjust the pricing model and I'll just say, you know what, I got to jack this up to $250 or $300 a month or whatever.
Or some things are more training and consulting versus data entry.
But my experience, keep in mind the demographic we're talking about here. The mindset of the person whom we're doing this for, they're not that invested in what this is. They only care about knowing that they can get a return done at the end of the year.
Right.
And most of these are not even business-minded people. When I interviewed the Uber driver, he told me that straight up front. He says, most of these people are not business-minded at all. They're just trying to make a buck and make a living. They just want to know that they can pay their bills, right? So, all right, we're almost out of time, and we had a lot more questions. So let's rip through these. Some of them are fast. Let me go back to my question list. All right, so Sarah asked, what's my favorite color?
That's easy.
Probably black. Tiffany asked, how can we clone ourselves, and do we want to? So
Yes.
what I would say is save a hair somewhere. Put it in a little bottle. That way when the technology is available and you can afford it, then you'll have what you need to clone yourself. All right. Blake, who didn't come in and join us today, asked, what am I doing this weekend? Well, as of yesterday, I was feeling really sick. Today, I feel much better. So normally I'd be going hiking tomorrow. However, it's supposed to rain here. So weather permitting, I'll be going hiking. Otherwise, I will be right here in my home office producing content for SethDavid.com because I'm way behind on that and on my Patreon stuff. Those poor people are pledging, and I promised them practically daily content, and I don't think I've given them anything in almost 2 weeks, so I need to make up for that. And Gina didn't ask a question. She just put a comment saying that, oh, wait, maybe there is a question in here. She says, I hope to be there. I have a client that, quote, upgraded without telling me first. Now I have to go fix. Okay. So, and then, Larry, we covered your question. Does Hub.com
Yeah, really appreciate that whole rundown. That really puts a new spin on things for me anyway.
It's my lifesaver.
And then Katrina, who's with us by chat only, asked, so what's on tap? And the answer is for me, nothing. I abused my privilege.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think that's all of our questions.
I would love to have another, we still call these hangouts? Zooms.
ZIBWAM.
ZIBWAMs. We keep touching on HubDoc, and I really want to see one that really shows it all the way to the end. And that's just hard to do with demo type.
I'll do it. I'll just blur out the private information. So at the last minute, we have Suchi joining us. Suchi,
Hey, Suchi.
raised your hand. That's how you got my attention.
I was watching for a while. You didn't read my question. My question said, I love Seth David.
You registered too late. I didn't see it.
Oh, damn.
What's the question?
It said,
wasn't-
I love Seth David.
It was an exclamation. It was not a question. Remember learning the difference in
I
Greek?
love Seth David, maybe?
Maybe.
We have exclamations, we have questions, and everything falls into one of those two categories, I think, actually. It's either an exclamation or a question.
Next time I'll make a statement.
So now I'll add another
there you go.
question. I'll add two things now. One will be for questions, one will be for exclamations.
Nice.
Suchi, you look much better. You were sick last time I saw you.
Yes. I'm feeling better. Thanks.
Yeah. You know, if there's an avatar for me, I'm probably in bed.
Oh, no.
So now everybody else answer the question. What are all your favorite colors?
Red.
Purple. Or green. Green.
Green.
We got a lot of green. You guys are all just money hungry.
Yeah, it's not really money. It's calming.
Yeah, grass, nature, trees.
Nature, trees.
Orange.
I thought I read somewhere once that pink is supposed to be, from a psychology study standpoint, very calming. Pink.
Yeah, they used to paint the inside of the paddy wagons. They painted them Pepto-Bismol pink because they would throw they did here in Savannah. The idea being they did this big study and paid a lot of money, right? So everything was Pepto-Bismol pink, and they would throw the bad guys in the paddy wagon. But then they had these cassette tapes. This is a while back, and they were supposed to play a certain kind of music, like this calming music. And the cops couldn't stand it, and they would, like, depending on the type of bad guy, they would put in, like, country instead of rap, or, or it was hysterical. It was absolutely hysterical, and, because the cops weren't cooperating. But,
How come you know that?
I don't know, but no, from a breast cancer survivor angle, I hate pink. I don't, I'm changing that avatar, by the way, and.
That's funny. And you all heard my question at the beginning. I think it was before we went live. My question for everybody to think about is, if Hillary Clinton gets elected president.
Oh, dear God.
Okay.
Are we moving?
What? So you think Trump is a better option?
No, but my question is, if Hillary Clinton gets elected president, what will she do to her interns?
Oh, you're bad.
That's mean.
If she's smart, she's not even going to have any.
So, y'all missed Dennis's question was about what I thought about the debate last night, and I said I didn't, and then we got into this whole
The comedy hour?
where my feeling is I want both parties to go back to the drawing board and just do better.
Yes.
Just start all over. Can we just throw this crap out and just start all over?
I would even be willing to give Obama another 4 years while they worked on it.
Woo, that's desperate.
Yep.
Boy, that's a thought.
I would be willing to give him another 4 years. Let's put it this way. Here's my prediction. If Trump wins, he will be impeached because he will do something so totally over the top and stupid.
Oh, we've seen people impeached before and nothing comes out of it.
No, nobody got impeached. They almost impeached Clinton, but they never did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about impeaching him, but they never actually did. I think, first of all, was pointed out in the John Oliver video, he's already talking about committing war crimes as an act of his presidency. Right, saying that we should kill the families of the terrorists. So he'll do something like that in office, and then he'll get impeached. And Hillary will probably be like a repeat of Obama for the past 4 years, just another ineffective president that can't.
Ineffective, do nothing.
Yep,
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
Regardless, it's going to be so polarized. We'll just be stagnant for,
As long as they don't prevent me from making a living, that's all I care about.
Yeah, that's true. Just keep the internet up, for God's sake. Keep the internet up.
Yep, and stop taxing me.
Yeah. Well.
That's one. According to Trump, if he
Yes.
is elected, he's going to tax the rich, which will be interesting because he is
rich.
not taxing himself. But that's what he claims, is he's going to tax the rich more and give the rest of us a break. So we'll see.
We will see.
Yeah,
All right,
what's the
and on that
definition
note,
of
we'll
rich?
end. What's that definition of rich? Yeah, well, that's obviously pretty subjective, but
Right.
let's just say, well, according to Obama, anybody making $250,000 or more a year is
I was going to say
rich.
that's what it is in Canada as well now.
Mm.
But
So
technically,
I
when
wouldn't
they talk
consider
about
that
the
rich.
when they talk about the top 1%, isn't that anybody making just over $100,000 a year?
Oh, I can't be right.
No.
I don't think so.
No, that's going to be
No.
up over $1 million.
Yeah, those are over millions. Yeah. All I know is when it's time to vote, here we are again. We're going to vote for who's going to do the least damage.
Exactly.
It's not who's the best.
Best
It's
of the
who's going to
worst.
do the least damage.
Yeah, it's always the least of the evils. Anyway,
Yeah.
on that
Well,
note,
on that depressing note, have a nice weekend.
we'll have another great talk with Seth.
Hey, Seth,
Yes.
thanks for the Zoom. It was very educational. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do you have a plan for next week?
No, it's going to be more of the same. I'm actually finding last week and now this week, I'm finding that I enjoy these almost more than having a guest. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I like it.
That's good. They're
It's more
both.
interactive. We can look at spreadsheets and do all kinds of exciting things with
Okay.
Excel and
Are
Google
you
Sheets.
emailing it out or?
I know I've been very last minute, but next week's is
Okay.
already set up. So as soon as we end this, I'm going to
Okay.
post up next week so you can register right away.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.